The Journey of Two Shoes. Part 1. The Beginning. In a quiet fishing village by the sea lived a boy named Elias. His family was poor, but his heart was rich with dreams. Every morning he would help his father mend nets and his mother prepare rice porridge for the family. But while others were content with the rhythm of waves and the simplicity of village life, Elias often stared at the horizon. One day, he whispered to himself, I'll find what lies beyond that line where the sea meets the sky. On his 12th birthday, his father handed him a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was a pair of worn-out leather shoes, cracked and faded, but carefully polished. Father, these shoes carried me through many storms. I have no riches to give you, Elias, but take them. They may not look like much, but they'll carry you far, if your heart knows where to walk. Elias bowed his head, holding the shoes as though they were treasure. To him, they were not just leather and stitches. They were a promise. Part 2. Struggles in the City. At 17, Elias left the village. With a small bag, a few coins, and his father's shoes, he boarded a crowded bus to the city. The city was nothing like he imagined. Tall buildings towered like giants, lights never seemed to sleep, and people rushed past without looking at one another. Elias knocked on doors, searched for work, but everywhere he went, the answer was the same. Manager: Sorry, boy. No experience, no job. Shopkeeper: You don't even have proper clothes. Stranger: Go back to your village. You don't belong here. Nights were the hardest. Elias often sat in the curb, hugging his knees, stomach empty, shoes dusty from endless walking. But whenever he felt like giving up, he remembered his father's words. If your heart knows where to walk. One evening, after being turned away again, Elias sat by a bakery. The smell of bread made his stomach ache. A little girl passed by and dropped her coin. He picked it up and ran to give it back. Elias: Miss, you dropped this. Girl: Thank you. I thought I lost it. The girl's mother, watching from a distance, smiled and gave Elias a small loaf of bread. It wasn't much, but to Elias, it was a feast. That night, he told himself, even if the world is unkind, I will not stop being kind. Part 3. The lessons of hardship days turned into months. Elias took odd jobs, carrying sacks in the market, cleaning tables at a food stall, even shining shoes for strangers. Ironically, he shined polished shoes, while his own grew more torn. People often laughed. Customer: Look at those rags on your feet. How can a shoe shiner wear such shoes? Elias smiled, never answering harshly. Deep inside, he knew. Those shoes carried not just his feet, but his father's hope. One rainy night after a long day, he found shelter under a bridge. There he met an old janitor named Mang Reuben. His back was bent, his clothes patched, yet his eyes held wisdom. Reuben: Why so down, son? Elias: I've tried everything. Still, life pushes me back. Reuben: Life is like shoes, boy. It's not the shine that matters, but the direction of your steps. Those words stayed with Elias. Part 4. The Turning Point. Elias worked harder. He woke before sunrise, carrying goods in the market. By day, he shined shoes. By night, he studied signs, letters, and numbers from old newspapers people threw away. He taught himself slowly, word by word. One day, he saw a boy crying on the street. His slippers had broken, and he was barefoot. Elias looked at his own father's shoes, already full of holes, barely holding together. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he knelt, removed them, and gave them to the boy. Boy: But Kuya, you'll have nothing. Elias: Shoes are meant for walking forward. Go, walk your path, and never stop. Elias walked barefoot for days, but his heart felt lighter than ever. Not long after, the bakery owner, the same woman who once gave him bread, noticed his determination. She offered him steady work. Elias grabbed the chance. Slowly, he saved. Part 5. The rise years passed. Elias, once the barefoot boy, grew into a young man with skills, discipline, and a dream. He saved enough to open a small food cart. The cart grew into a stall, the stall into a store. But Elias did not forget hunger, cold nights, and rejection. Instead of only earning for himself, he began hiring other poor boys like him. He gave them jobs, meals, and sometimes even shoes. One day, Mang Reuben, the old janitor, came to visit. His hair was whiter, his hands weaker. Elias: "Mang Reuben, you told me once, it's not the shine of the shoes, but the direction of the steps. You were right. Look at what those steps have built, Reuben." Smiling. "And look how many others can now walk because of your path." Part 6. Legacy of the Shoes. Elias never became the richest man in the city, but he became known as the man who gave opportunities to those who had none. Children who once begged on the streets now worked in his shop, studied at night, and walked proudly wearing shoes he provided. He kept the memory of his father's old shoes alive by placing a wooden carving of them in his store. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Life is not measured by how far you walk, but by how many lives walk farther because of you." Epilogue: years later, Elias returned to his village. The sea still sang the same song, but the boy, who once stared at the horizon, had walked far. The villagers gathered to welcome him, not because he had money, but because he had carried their hopes with him. At the shore, Elias whispered, "Father, your shoes have carried me, not just across the city, but into the hearts of others, and now their steps will carry the journey forward." And so, the legend of the two shoes lived on. Shoes that taught a boy that life is not about what you receive, but about what you give, not about how shiny your path looks, but about how many others find courage to walk beside you.